The town of Hyde Park, New York, and its surrounding area are teeming with history, from presidential homes to Gilded Age estates. This weekend, my dad and I toured the childhood home, political refuge, and favorite place of former President Franklin Delano Roosevelt and wife Elenore, as well as a seasonal home of one of America's first families of wealth, the Vanderbilt Mansion. Both have been designated National Historic Sites and are cared for and operated by the National Park Service. Join us as we take you on a tour of these beautiful, renowned landmarks. We'll begin our tour at the very first Presidential Library and FDR Museum. The Franklin D. Roosevelt Library was dedicated on June 30th, 1941. This brainchild of FDR himself was proposed as a space to preserve and provide public access to the records of his presidency. Its purpose has now expanded far beyond that, as the current-day museum holds a plethora of exhibits showcasing important moments in history, details of Roosevelt's personal life, and artifacts from prominent figures and the American people. The museum begins by showcasing the state of the country in 1932, the year FDR first took office. America was in the depths of the Great Depression. Next up is the exhibit featuring Roosevelt's ascension from Governor of New York to President of the United States. There's a lot of fun and interesting campaign and political memorabilia to explore here, ranging from FDR's lucky hat to campaign buttons, and even the bullet from his attempted assassination in 1933. Continuing on, you'll enter into the Foundations of a Public Life exhibit. This area provides insight into FDR's personal life, family ties, and political roots. One of my favorite sections and the most historic of the Franklin D. Roosevelt Presidential Library and Museum is FDR's private study. This is his actual study, not simply a recreation. He used this space to carry out important government business while in Hyde Park during World War II. He also gave many of his famous radio speeches, known as fireside chats, from this room. The remainder of the upstairs section of the museum takes you through, in great detail, Roosevelt's New Deal, including all he was able to accomplish in his first 100 days in office. It is fascinating to see how much of our country's infrastructure and how many programs can be tied back to FDR's three-term presidency. The bottom floor of the museum houses a smaller exhibition showcasing Eleanor's many personal and political accomplishments, as well as FDR's customized, hand-controlled car and pieces of his extensive art and model ship collections. It isn't at all hard to spend an hour or two in the museum, so definitely allot yourself plenty of time if you want to really take in everything it has to offer. On our way to tour Springwood, we admired the sculpture made from pieces of the Berlin Wall created by Edwina Sands, granddaughter of Winston Churchill. We also popped into the stables built by FDR's father James in 1886. Aside from the historic addition of a sleeping porch on the rear elevation prior to 1924, the coach house and stables remain largely unchanged from the original construction. The stately house known as Springwood, home to the 32nd and longest-serving President of the United States, has donned a few different looks in its day. Originally built in 1793, it was renovated into an Italian-style villa around 1850. Franklin was born in the home in 1882, and the house was enlarged in 1916 to accommodate Franklin and Eleanor's growing family, and the style shifted to one that reflected FDR's political aspirations. The entry room welcomes you into the home and life of Franklin Roosevelt. Here you'll find a collection of beautiful furnishings, artwork, family portraits, and a collection of birds mounted by FDR when he was a young boy. In the library, you'll catch a glimpse into some of FDR's many collections, ranging from stamps to prints, manuscripts to books, of which there are over 3,000. A fun fact about this room is that there are actually hidden cabinets behind the panels surrounding the west fireplace, which held a collection of books authored by FDR's uncle, Teddy Roosevelt. You'll also note a small but beautiful Wings of Victory statue in the corner, a gift to FDR's mother Sarah from the French government, in addition to one of FDR's 4 wheelchairs built to his exact specifications to allow him to maneuver about his home more easily. The music room, also referred to as the Dresden room because of the chandelier and ceramic garniture on the fireplace mantel, is the most formal room in the home. Franklin's mother Sarah redecorated this room especially for the visit of the King and Queen of England in 1939. The portraits atop the grand piano are gifts from heads of state, many of whom visited the Roosevelts here during FDR's presidency. The dining room in the home is rather small for the entertaining that occurred here, but it is beautiful nonetheless, though I will admit it doesn't look like the most comfortable place to enjoy a meal. A quick note to those watching, there were a few rooms closed to the public during our visit, including the snuggery, pantry, kitchen, study, smoking room, and servants' dining room, so sadly we were not able to include those in this video. I'd love to hear your thoughts on them in the comments below if you've been able to experience those. The second floor of the home, which FDR accessed using a lift that he pulled himself up on, houses a number of bedrooms. The first room we visited after heading up the staircase was Franklin's boyhood bedroom. It maintained its original decor and furnishings throughout Roosevelt's entire life. He did add to the collection of personal and political memorabilia that adorn the room throughout his lifetime. The pink room is a guest bedroom that has been occupied by famous visitors such as King George VI, Winston Churchill, and Madame Chiang Kai-shek. The Chintz Room hosted important guests like Queen Elizabeth of England and Queen Wilhelmina of the Netherlands. Prior to the 1915 renovations to Springwood, this was Franklin and Eleanor's room. This guest room was originally part of Franklin's parents' master suite before the 1915 renovations. After that, it was used as a guest room for Springwood's most frequent visitors. The blue room was originally FDR's parents' room, which they shared until his father's death in 1900, and is also the room that Franklin was born in. After James's passing, Sarah moved to a new room in the south wing of the home, and the room was redone for guests. Per her wishes, it was restored to its original state after her passing, representing a conscious effort to memorialize the birthplace of a U.S. president. Franklin's bedroom offers a beautiful view of the Hudson River. He would spend early mornings here reading the paper and tending to presidential business. A cool feature in this room is that the telephone next to the bed provided direct access to the White House switchboard operator. Eleanor's bedroom is actually a smaller morning room connecting two master bedrooms that she moved into after Franklin contracted polio in 1921 in order to better tend to his needs at night. Another note to those watching, the green room and the third floor were off limits to visitors during our tour. We exited the home from the second floor and were greeted by sweeping views of the Hudson Valley. It's fun to imagine FDR and Elenore sitting in the same spot, soaking in the peace and solitude of their magnificent estate. Before leaving, we visited the burial sites of Elenore and Franklin in the Rose Garden and viewed the beautiful flowers that line the paths. The next stop on our tour is the former seasonal estate of Frederick and Louise Vanderbilt. Frederick was the grandson of one of America's founding fathers of wealth, Cornelius Vanderbilt, who built his fortune on steamboats and railroad investments. One can trace the ownership of this estate back to John Bard, who purchased and established an estate known as Hyde Park in 1764. It wasn't until 1895 that the Vanderbilts purchased it, at which time they demolished the existing house and had a new one erected. The house was designed by Charles F. McKim of the noted McKim, Mead & White firm, and the interior of the home was designed by the leading designer of the age, Stanford White. Heading inside, the elegance and grandeur of this 54-room mansion is notable immediately. The tall ceiling peaks into the second story of the home, the walls are articulated with marble pilasters, and a grand fireplace with statues on either side can be found in the middle. The entire south end of the first floor is taken up by the living room. A notable furnishing here is the Steinway & Sons concert grand piano. The piano is decorated with portraits depicting classical composers and ribbon borders containing lyric verses by Milton and Shakespeare. On the walls beside the doorway to the living room, you'll find two large tapestries depicting scenes from the Trojan War. Extending across the entire north end of the first floor is the dining room. The 17th century ceiling was salvaged from an Italian palazzo, and the fireplaces were brought over from Paris and Florence. In this room, where up to 18 people could dine together, the most important furnishing was actually the carpet. This rare Persian rug was then, and still is, the most expensive item in the entire home. It is one of the largest Islamic carpets in existence, and is thought to be nearly 400 years old. After adjourning from dinner, the women would gather in the reception room, a small but elegant space to gather, gossip, and intel that could help improve their family's social standing. Frederick's den and office sit opposite from Louise's reception room. The den served as the area where the men would retire following dinner to have a drink, smoke a cigar, and talk about their businesses or hobbies. The office contained some hidden gems, such as a hard-to-locate private bathroom and a hidden latch and panel on the mantel over the fireplace that, when swung open, reveals a small compartment for valuables or spirits. As you ascend the grand staircase, you'll notice a variety of statues adorning the landings. At the top, you'll find a particularly interesting statue of an infant Hercules wrestling a snake. On the second floor, you'll find Frederick and Louise's bedrooms, along with guest bedrooms, more of which can be found on the third floor, which was unavailable to us for viewing when we went. Unfortunately, most of the furnishings on the second floor were covered when we visited. I'm unsure why. Mrs. Vanderbilt's bedroom is a recreation of a queen's bedroom from the Louis XV period. It exudes the extravagance of the Gilded Age. Mr. Vanderbilt's bedroom has a much darker, more medieval feel, with ornately carved wooden features and a mixture of style influences. Throughout the rest of the second floor, you'll find a number of guest bedrooms and further displays of wealth, seen in everything from the art on the walls to the light fixtures to the detail in the railings. We exited the second floor via the servants' staircase, where the team of 70 to 90 staff could move about without getting in the way. This led us to the basement, where we concluded our tour by viewing the rooms where the servants cooked, cleaned, and made sure the needs of the Vanderbilts were always met. After finishing our tour of the home, we paid a visit to the gardens. The Vanderbilts traveled extensively in Europe and incorporated many design elements they had seen there into their gardens here at their spring and fall residence. Their multi-level gardens reflect the era's tastes for gardens in the Italian style, and contain beds cut out into geometric shapes, fountains, and ornate statues. Before leaving, we visited one last unique gem on the former estate grounds, a Gingko tree likely planted by original owner Samuel Bard. This ginkgo is one of the continent's oldest, dating back to 1799. Thanks for watching! I hope you've enjoyed taking a tour of these historic places with me. If you'd like to join us on our upcoming adventures, make sure to subscribe to our channel. I'll catch you on the next adventure.